Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Rich Scheben sitting in for Vincent Finelli out of the Northern Rockies here in Montana. And I talked to Vince privately yesterday. I asked him if I could monologue because I have so much evidence of election/voter fraud that, as you know, when I'm on with Vince, unfortunately, I don't give much time because I do so much reading and research to give to you, the people, so we can understand, so everybody can understand the fraud that is going on in this banana republic that we call America. And it's just a shame that this has happened to the degree that it has. And Happy December is because for us off-grid people who actually live differently and self-sufficiently, we are looking at maybe 20 days of shorter days, and then the days will start getting longer for the summer, for the year, and we keep track of those things. So what I want to do is, before I get into the articles, the bullet points that I've taken out, I want to share an analogy with you. I shared this with it's all blurred, but it was a week or two ago. I shared an analogy of what we're experiencing as a marathon race. So let's say I was a marathon runner, which is a 26-mile race. And at the 2-mile mark, I got picked up by a car, a vehicle. And at the 24-mile mark, I got dropped off and started running again. Think about that. This is what we're experiencing today. Let's say there was a board of 10 people just shooting from the hip to approve the winner and the count, to certify the winner. And let's say if that person who crosses the finish line, and I use the finish line in quotes because obviously it's a total cheat, claims victory even when he said he wouldn't claim victory before the race. So let's say it was me that did this race. And let's say no one believed that I would do that. So let's say there was witnesses. Let's say there was videos. Let's say there was affidavits from whistleblowers. And all this evidence came pouring in that I cheated. In other words, at the 2-mile mark, I got picked up by a car. And at the 24-mile mark, I got dropped off and started running again to cross the finish line for the quote-unquote, air quote, win. So let's say people were coming out of the woodwork and saying, oh, you cheated. You rigged the race. That's not fair. You didn't win. We're taking the trophy away from you. And let's say I had some dark people, gangsters, on my payroll, and they threatened you and went to your house and doxed you and your children and threatened you and even did violence against you, against all the witnesses, all the people, all the whistleblowers, all the people who signed affidavits. And then let's say I had big tech in my back pocket because they were bought and paid for, and they had to give me certain favors back in the grifter American world we live in. And they purged the evidence. They shadow banned it. They used computer algorithms to edit everything. So let's say they suppressed and censored to hide not just the truth and evidence, but justice. What does that remind you of? A banana republic, of Venezuela. That's what's happening in America. So words like evidence and even what's legal are now being redefined in front of our eyes. So think about all the people who have been murdered, who have been raped, who have been robbed, all the people who witnessed that, what the powers that be are saying, mostly on the Democrat side. Believe me, there's plenty of traitors on the Republican side, too. That's why you always hear me say it's not so much a left-right paradigm as it is the aristocracy managing and controlling the serfs. So let's say all these people who witnessed these murders and rapes, now the powers that be on the left are saying, well, we redefined it. So even if you have video, even if you're evident, you're a witness of evidence, even if you saw the math, even if you saw the USB cards or sticks going in the computer, even if it doesn't matter now, because we are redefining what's legal and evidence, and what you knew of those definitions is no longer valid. Now, did I win that marathon if I did exactly what I just explained? Of course not. See, this is why I always go back to rules, laws, and accountability should be the same for everybody in America. But see, accountability is now being defined differently. It's almost so pathetic that you can define it as sarcasm, as theater, as illegitimate fluff. It's kind of like a couple of examples that come to mind is these PCR COVID tests or the term peaceful protests. See, if definitions have now been sold to the highest bidder, then nothing matters. Math, science, I love the word expert because they're either bought and paid for or blackmailed or threatened. Commerce, economy, money, currency, nutrition in food, big pharma, especially pertaining to vaccinations, fluoride in the water, can't go to the gym or restaurant or social distance. So now everybody needs to be classified as a strip club in an autonomous zone. And if you're a protester, you can go to a party, a funeral, because you're allowed to have 30 people or more. You see how stupid life has gotten? And it really started, folks, because people were afraid to get involved. People were afraid to be called controversial, racist, bigot, sexist, misogynist, homophobe, intolerant, violent, hater, conspiracy theorist. Anti-Islamist phobe. So we've lived with, now we're living, let me put it this way, with consequences of inaction for decades of this inaction towards political correctness. And we're living it live time. And it's going to be devastating before it gets better, if it even gets better. So, I wanted to share that with you, and hopefully that's a great analogy, a good lesson to be learned, because if nothing matters, think about the hypocrisies. Oh, let's open up the borders, but we need the social distance. The corruption and manipulation from the central banks. What means anything? Polls, votes, productivity, work. If everything gets delegitimized and is sold to the highest bidder, and they say, we need to protect our own interests for the good of the people, usually means they're not willing to admit their addictions to power, money, and control. So what the Democrat Party has literally done is certified hypocrisy as a pseudo-patriotism. Think about that. It's pretty crazy, huh? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start mentioning articles, bullet points that I glean from articles, from videos, and I have a lot of stuff, so I'm just going to go through things as quickly as possible. I'm going to try to keep comments to a minimum, only so I can get context for you, the listeners, on what's going on. First, there's a warning that this link may be unsafe, and that's regarding Sidney Powell's Twitter account. It's saying that calling it malicious, spammy links, violent or misleading contact, which could lead to real-world harm, etc., etc. This is all part of the propaganda, ladies and gentlemen. When you have somebody who has the only skin in the fight that Sidney Powell has is being a patriotic American. She's doing this on her own dime, on her own time, and for those of you who have not listened or seen Sidney Powell in an interview, I recommend you look her up, because if you want to see what a hero looks like, an American hero, that's her. Next, this is really important. It's really sad and pathetic that the powers that be think that you're so stupid. And this is a Pennsylvania official vote tally, and this has been purged. It's been deleted from the system, but a patriot got hold of this. This is a Pennsylvania official vote tally on 11/24 at 8 p.m., so basically 3 weeks after the election. And basically, it's a very simple chart and gives a grand total of votes, which is 4.2 million and change, and it shows candidate President Trump and Joseph Biden. And this is really pertaining to mail-in votes that came in late. So here we go. Pennsylvania reports having mailed out 1.8 million and change ballots. Keep that number in your mind for a moment. Pennsylvania reports having mailed out 1.8 million ballots, of which, this is a key number here, 1,462,302 were returned. So basically 1.4 million and change of these mail-in ballots were returned. And the total number of mail-in votes has been reported as 2,589,242. So you take the 2.5 million and change, subtract it from the 1.4 million and change, that means there's 1.1 million votes that came in out of thin air, and Joseph Biden got almost 2 million of the votes, and Donald Trump got 594,000. Welcome back, everybody. Rich Scheben sitting in for Vincent Finelli here in the Northern Rockies of Montana. And I'm not sure where the break came in, where if you heard my final conclusion on the Pennsylvania official votes on this particular chart that was purged by the powers that be. So, as they call you useful idiots, as they call us useful idiots, they want to make sure you stay dumbed down useful idiots. The conclusion of this chart on 11/24 at 8 p.m., which they deleted and purged from all records except for what this chart basically says, and it was found by patriots prior to the purge. Pennsylvania reports having mailed out 1.8 million and change ballots, of which 1.4 million and changed were returned. Yet the total mail-in vote number was 2.5 million and change. So if the total mail-in ballots was 2.5 million and change, and 1.4 million and change was returned, how can 1.1 million and change votes come out of the blue, mostly going to Joe Biden, where Joe Biden received almost 2 million mail-in votes in Pennsylvania, and Donald Trump received 594,000 and change votes? You see, Pennsylvanians and all swing states, and as far as I'm concerned, all 50 states need an audit or at least a revote, because the U.S. citizenship has been revoked, especially for you folks in the swing states. You've been canceled by this election fraud. The U.S. election system is purposely set up for a rig job. In other words, your rights have been contaminated by the Democrat Party. This whole scam, this steal, should have been labeled null and void around the whole country weeks ago. To put it differently, folks, you people, whether it be Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, including Minnesota, Michigan, Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, it looks like especially Pennsylvania, you don't have representation. Your right to vote has been stolen. Stolen. And for those of you in Georgia, you need to vote for this Senate. Okay? Don't listen to some people, because some people, who knows what kind of money they got under the table. You have to vote, and you have to vote hard, and you have to watch and become a whistleblower and become a witness and sign affidavits for the steal that's upcoming for Georgia. So what this tells us is that Joe Biden was running a marathon race. What happened was Joe Biden got picked up by a car at the 2-mile mark, and he was dropped off at the 24-mile mark. And then he had a press conference and threatened and doxed all the people with violence, especially all the people who were witnesses and affidavits, signed affidavits and were whistleblowers. And then he had big tech purge and shadow ban and edit with computer algorithms, everything, to suppress and censor and hide truth, hide evidence, and hide justice. That's what happens when you live in a banana republic, folks. You redefine words. And now I don't do tweet or Facebook, I never have, but I can certainly glean a lot of the information that comes from it. And it's just a very interesting objective fact. Donald Trump had almost 90 million followers, and Joe Biden had a little over 20 million followers. That's probably how the allocation of votes went in real time with reality. I'll be right back after this break, folks. Appreciate you being here. Welcome back to USAPrepares.com. Rich Scheben from Montana sitting in for Vince Finelli today. And I'm going to start going into more election/voter fraud. And depending on how much time I have, I want to talk about more hypocrisies, double standards, and where lack of reading research and political correctness has taken us and taken our freedoms and liberties away. So next, and this is not really an article, I saw this yesterday at the Arizona hearing, and I'm sure most of this audience did, but Dr. Shiva, it's amazing that he lost his election, and we all know why, because he's a patriot. He's extremely intelligent. His credentials was mind-blowing. His credentials is probably equal to any 100 people you can find on the street randomly. This guy is a genius. And what he did, he ran assimilation models, making a very long story short, because I have to because of time. And he came up with the closest model that he came up with. And Dr. Shiva suggests possible vote swapping in Arizona, where President Trump received, I hope you're sitting down for these numbers, in order for the model to occur of what happened with his research, President Trump received negative 30% of Democrat votes, while Joe Biden received 130% of the vote. Now, everybody in that room gasped. You could hear it. You could see people's faces. The statistical impossibilities. You know, I almost hate the word improbabilities, and I hear, I've talked about all the glitches and the redating ballots and the machine voting abnormalities, but these are statistical impossibilities without fraud. So Biden gets 1.3 votes and Trump gets votes reduced by 30%. I want you to just think about this. I want you to think about that kind of corruption. And it's unbelievable how stupid these people think you are. It's unbelievable. Okay, next article or bullet point. It's going to be a combination of all the above. Trump lawyer Jenna Ellis. And man, she is on the ball. She's a patriot. I really, really respect her. Jenna Ellis is receiving threats that she deserves to be raped. That pause was purposeful. Aren't you proud to be a Democrat, in case there's some Democrats listening today? Next article. 4 states where votes were switched live on TV away from President Trump to Biden. I remember saying this. I think these 4 states in this particular article was Georgia, North Carolina, Nevada, and Pennsylvania. I watched it. I remember several weeks ago talking about me literally seeing votes being switched and President Trump's tally, total vote tally, decreasing. These numbers don't happen. These statistical impossibilities only happen with fraud. Next article. Regarding the Georgia election lawsuit, Dominion Software was Chinese and Iranian agents to manipulate election. Again, folks, I know I try and say this disclaimer every time. I do not make up these articles. I do not make up the talking points. These are all published articles in the public domain. Next article. Another Georgia lawsuit. Witness testifies about use of different paper for counterfeit ballots where the watermark was solid gray instead of transparent. So maybe Steve Pieczenik, he got a lot of negative flack when he came on InfoWars a few weeks ago and talked about these watermarks. Maybe they are real. I don't know. But, and I just assume that even the things that we glean may be inaccurate for the purpose of plausible deniability by the powers that be. So keep that in mind. And that's probably in the 10% range, could be lower. But I try really hard when I mention articles on national radio. I mean, we're worldwide. USAPrepares.com, out of I don't know how many, 60, 70 shows, 80 shows, I don't know how many programs. Vince's show is ranked number 3, 2 behind InfoWars, and everybody in the world knows who InfoWars is. So, I try really hard to glean and verify information that has credibility and validity. Okay. Here we go. Next, Hundreds of millions of dollars spent on Dominion voting machines in numerous swing states before 2020 election. Imagine my shock. This is why you folks in Georgia need to get out and vote. You have to vote because the whole system is still rigged. It's contaminated. It's a scam. It's a steal. Next article. Elections court filing. Foreign agents of aggressor nations had access to U.S. voter lists and had done so recently. Next article. Thousands of fake voters found at Wisconsin recount in Dane County. And there's reports from GOP observers. Now you have to remember, folks, that a lot of these whistleblowers, a lot of these witnesses, if not all, are signing affidavits. They're signing affidavits under perjury of law, which means they're going to go to jail, if not prison, if they're not found to be accurate and telling the truth. So there's a lot of people putting their necks on the line here. Next article. 900 military ballots in Fulton County, Georgia, went to Joe Biden. Do you believe that? You know, I feel so sorry for our military, especially our combat soldiers who put their life on the line, their limbs on the line. You know, they're going to start asking, who are they really fighting for? Are they fighting for the USA, the deep state, the military-industrial complex, or pedophile blackmail rings? This is probably what they're all talking about right now. Our people at the top have committed treason, sedition, racketeering, espionage at the highest levels. It's crimes, it's frauds, it's, you know, this is why there's so much. Donald Trump won in such a landslide. That's why there's so much evidence here, folks, because the cover-up was so sloppy. They were literally scrambling to catch up to Trump's landslide. That's why there's so many non-signatures match, quick signatures with chicken scratch, no down ballot votes. You know, and people keep asking, as I do and many in the alternative media, where's the DOJ and the FBI? I want to remind everybody, these agencies were complicit in spying on President Trump. So we, meaning the alternative media and the patriots, are doing the job of journalism, especially mainstream media, the FBI, the DOJ. Now, I try really hard to try to get valid, credible information before I take it on the air. I spend hours trying to verify as much as I can. I try to disregard a lot of rumors. You know, I've got stories of anonymous witnesses and 35,000 votes being given to Dems in Pima City. I've got, I read an article just the other day, I think it was last night, that Joe Biden was talking about conceding, and he's making a deal so him and his family, especially his pedophile son, doesn't go to prison for the rest of his life. Not to mention all the articles that we have mentioned on this show and on now thousands of alternative media sites where Joe Biden is complicit in business in China and Russia and the Biden family. I'm not making this up. This stuff is published in the public domain. Okay, I got to move on here, folks. I apologize. Next article. Lynn Wood outed mysterious Georgia operative Gabe Sterling. Now video shows him admitting he helped set up set up drop boxes that then worked with far left activists. This is on video. He says, we caught them. My gosh, with the articles that we've given on this show over the past several weeks, this sham scam of an election should have been null and void weeks ago. It's just amazing to me that we're spending all these taxpayer dollars on all this theater. Next article, speaking of theater, Dominion rep who scanned ballots in Georgia County where thousands of Trump votes were uncounted also worked for Kamala Harris. I believe he was a photographer for her. And those of you who didn't see a video that came out recently about a Dominion rep literally sticking a USB thumb drive into a computer. It's unbelievable that we don't have hundreds of people going to jail. It really is sad. Next. Democrat operative brought fraudulent Dominion voting machines to Michigan. Next. Dominion exec Eric Coomer, quote, "Don't worry, Trump's not going to win. I made effing sure of that. That's in writing." Next, Michigan witness. "I saw the Detroit plan to destroy all provisional ballots to hurt Republicans on video." Next, Sidney Powell's Georgia emergency declaratory judgment demands seizure of every voting machine in the state. Well, I don't know if you folks heard about it. I know Sidney Powell did. But there was a Dominion server last night removed from the Fulton County voting center while lawyers sought a restraining order. So they went in there and said some fake BS about, something with the software needs to be fixed. And they literally took the server and removed it last night. Folks, this whole thing is fake and phony. Everything about this election is a scam. It's a sham. This should be null and void weeks ago. I can't believe the evidence that's out there. It's appalling. This is like fifth grade theater. They can't even connect their own dots. I'll be right back after the break, folks. Appreciate you being here. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Rich Scheben sitting in for Vincent Finelli. When I mentioned that last article right before the end of the break about Sidney Powell's Georgia emergency declaratory judgment demands seizure of every voting machine in the state, and then last night I mentioned about a server literally being stolen right from under people's noses. That's against the law. The law says you can't touch voter evidence for 22 months. We're at the point that the rule of law has been redefined, and it all depends on who breaks it and what group they're from. That's the inevitable direction that we're going in under this rewritten history towards FUBAR, this authoritarian, this tyrannical, communist, it's for the good of the people, false narrative is taking us down, folks. Everybody needs to stand up and stick up for America and the rule of law, or else we will not have America, and it could be as short as a matter of weeks. Next article. Former Filipino lawmaker and attorney says Smartmatic preloaded machines with ballots before start of Manila elections. See, we've given videos of people going into the hardware and the software in 2 minutes. We've talked about all this, the USB cards we talked about that connected to the internet. We've given so much proof, so many articles over the past few weeks. It's unbelievable how the Democrats are still saying there's no evidence. This is called lying and gaslighting because they think that you are stupid. Next article. In Minnesota, I saw an 8-9 minute video, and it's on investmentwatchblog.com. I only saw this in one place. I could not verify this. but there's a really good video that shows something they call the 2% strategy on how Donald Trump really won Minnesota, and they show how it works. And I recommend you going on investmentwatchblog.com. And for you people who live in Minnesota, again, you've been disrespected, you've been degraded, you've been insulted, and you need to do something about it. Next, U.S. military intel agents ready to testify in Dominion scandal. Well, we're going to see how that goes, because even though the servers in Germany were confiscated, I heard there was a firefight, it's hard to know what to believe anymore. If you heard it on the mainstream media, I definitely would not believe it. In fact, I would turn the story around and do a 180, and that's got a better probability of being true. So who knows if the good guys got it? I don't know, but we'll see where that leads us. Next, Dominion says assertions of vote switching are completely false. And I can't tell you how hard it is for me not to be laughing for 5 minutes straight here. But there's 2 videos of Dominion executives, including Eric Coomer, showing how to switch votes. We are getting to the point of stupid, where witnesses and whistleblowers and videos and evidence and math and statistical improbabilities are no longer evidence. Unbelievable. Man, we've really fallen, folks. Next, video released of phone call recording to Chinese manufacturer requesting a bulk order of fake U.S. 2020 ballots. Are you surprised? Next, Sidney Powell says she has the receipts, she has the pictures, she has the check stubs to pay for ballot harvesting. It's amazing that the powers that be at the top are so bought and paid for, so weak, so intimidated, so blackmailed, that we are allowing this to go on. It's such a shame when we've had over 1 million combat soldiers literally give their life at a young age for our freedoms, liberties, and Constitution. Unbelievable. Next, CNN is calling Rudy and Sidney conspiracy nuts for exposing Dominion. But CNN said the same thing in 2005. But shh, you're not supposed to mention that. I'll be right back after the top of the hour break, folks. We appreciate you being here. Thank you. Welcome back to hour number 2 of USAPrepares.com. And I am Rich Scheben in the Northern Rockies in Montana, sitting in for Vince Finelli today. I actually had so much information, I asked if I could monologue. And here I am. So I'm going to probably start shortcutting my shortcuts, because I have so much more election/voter fraud evidence. Now, I just want to remind a lot of folks, we've all heard, how come the left stick together? How come they have loyalty to one another? How come they have an allegiance? They get all the donations, and yet they're literally out in the open with fraud and criminal behavior and censorship, surveillance, tracking and tracing, calling for depopulation, and openly admitting to their addictions to power, money, and control. How come they're getting away with that? It's because the system is set up so they're using our money and making us poorer at the same time and limiting opportunities. And I've talked about this in great detail. When you demand to lower the bars of standards and expectations for a job, when hard work, effort for results, and qualifications no longer matter, you delegitimize work. In America, where GDP and commerce depends on raising the bars of standards and expectations for a job. We are doing the opposite, and we are literally eliminating rights and restitution under the rule of law for people who have been targeted. So we have no check on runaway power, and we're enabling the most corrupt companies and industries in the country and the world and giving them liability immunity, which creates more wealth inequality from the bottom 93% to the top 1% to 2%. This is why if we don't come together and stop sticking up for our group, our hyphen, our pronoun, we're going to continue to give free lunch to the elites, eliminate the rule of law for precedents, and they're going to keep throwing more divide and conquer strategies at us with more hypocrisy, more double standards, more brainwashing. So when I opened with, how come the left is always sticking together? I hear that. I read it in comment sections all the time. Well, we have one man who is of the gazillionaire class who's sticking up for us. And his name is Donald Trump. He believes in the Constitution, the rule of law. He's sticking his neck out for us. Now, I don't know if he makes $1 a paycheck, $1 a quarter, or $1 a year, but he's virtually working for free. And that's why in the beginning of the show I talked about his Twitter followers, which was like 88 million, and Joe Biden was like 20 million. That's probably the real accurate turnout of this vote count. And by the way, President Trump's Twitter account was frozen for over a month. So he probably had way more than 88 million followers. This is this political correct psyop that we live in. That's why the left was calling us Nazis for years. When they were the authoritarians, they were bringing in communism and socialism. They were for tyranny, dictatorships, fascism. They wanted to control the media. They didn't want citizen journalists. They wanted to get rid of the police and bring in their brown shirts. They wanted to get rid of due process. They want government schools, anti-homeschool, and anti-parents knowing the curriculum. See, when you have lawyers and judges and courts literally selling out the American people under the guise of justice, you're going to have voter fraud and election fraud. This is what happens. We have allowed powers that be to set the table against us. We're all sitting at the same table, but they're getting the big fat turkey and steak, and you're eating GMO soy. Okay, next article. Okay, here in proof, Native Americans in Arizona given TVs, tablets, and resort stays for votes. And the same proof for gift cards in Nevada. Bought and paid for, folks. Bribes. Yeah. There's no corruption, no fraud in this election. Look the other way. Wow. Next. Pennsylvania election observer drops bombshell. Says special agents from the Attorney General's office showed up at her door to question her. I listened to her in an interview. So it could have been the DOJ, the FBI, who knows what agents are. But folks, it's gotten to the point where the FBI and DOJ is not only not doing their job, basically, when you are a government worker and you're getting paid a big fat paycheck, a benefit package, and a pension, and you're not doing your job, this is over the top. This is outrageous. You got to have some audacity to get a paycheck from the public, and you're actually doing the opposite of your job. This is why government needs to be reduced by 90%. Next. Pennsylvania poll watcher claims 47 missing USB drives uploaded to 120,000 illegal votes posted. Next. Pennsylvania judge rules 2020 Pennsylvania election likely unconstitutional. Trump case likelihood to succeed. Gives the state legislatures power to choose electors. The state legislatures at all these swing states need to do your job, like Pennsylvania and Arizona's been doing. Next, and this is a video. Obama says mail-in ballots can only be trusted if signatures are verified. This is on video. This is when Obama won one of his elections. But what's good for thee is not good for you. Next, Smartmatic chairman admits technology is licensed from Dominion. Next, Dominion server crash in Fulton County delays recount. Yeah, that wasn't done on purpose. Yeah, we believe everything you say. Folks, it's just like this judge, and I think I have the article somewhere, and I'm going to wait to comment on that until I get to the article. Boy, my computer, folks, is starting to go a little haywire here. Okay, let's see if we got something going here. Dominion server in Fulton County delays recount. In Nebraska, exceeds historical average by 16%. Biden took 66% of the final 27% of the vote, where he was running at about 40% of the vote. Think about that kind of math, folks. Next, Sidney Powell claims massive voter fraud in Virginia. She says, see you soon. Next, Dominion voting systems, patents given to China Bank, HSBC, as collateral in 2019. People, are you connecting the dots? I wish I could talk about this stuff with more detail and specificity, but I have so much evidence. I don't have time. Next, I saw all kinds of illegal behavior, quote unquote, from a Michigan election witness who saw 4 a.m., 4 o'clock in the morning, illegal ballot drops. You got to remember, people, these people are sticking their neck out. These people have literally signed affidavits for us, the people. All right. Next, Arizona voter fraud witness. Army Colonel Phil Walden confirms he witnessed Dominion communications with Frankfurt on Election Day. Frankfurt, Germany. Think about that. Confirmed. Next, the number of indefinitely confined, that's in quotes, Wisconsin voters who can vote without IDs increased from 60,000 people in 2016 to 200,000 people in 2020. Nothing to see here, folks. Just move along. Next, votes moved to Joe Biden in Pennsylvania on election night were labeled, quote, accidentally awarded to the Libertarian Party. People, can you please tell me why our taxpayer dollars are still funding all this stuff? This whole election should be null and void. When we've given evidence after article, after whistleblower, after affidavit, after photography, after video. This is getting ridiculous. Next, former FBI agent finds 17,000 plus Georgia voters with out-of-state forwarded mail addresses. You know what the key word is there, folks? Former FBI. That's really sad. Next, Arizona witness. Truckloads of ballots kept coming in for 10 days after election officials. 10 days after election officials were done counting. People, are we giving up on America? Because we have literally gone beyond 1984 Orwellian Twilight Zone. We are beyond in the categories of stupid right now because there's so much proof and evidence of election and voter fraud. I'm about ready to lose pronunciation of these common two-syllable letter words because I'm shaking my head in disbelief that this election is not dubbed null and void. Next article. Thousands of Georgia voters illegally registered and submitted mail-in ballots using postal or commercial addresses. It's getting to be ridiculous. Next. Digital forensic analysis shows Dominion server connected to Iran and China. Next, GOP Representative Loudermilk, an IT technician and county employee, wiped the election data and servers in Fulton County. People, we're a banana republic. Welcome back, everybody. Rich Scheben sitting in for Vince today. And I am going to continue and proceed with more election/voter fraud. And I'm probably going to speed it up a little bit and shortcut my shortcuts so I can get through as much data as possible. Next article. GOP chairman of Michigan Oversight Committee will not allow Rudy Giuliani to testify on Tuesday. Now, see, it doesn't matter, folks. Obviously it's mostly Democrats, but neocons, rhinos, and traitors come in all stripes. Bought and paid for, blackmailed, threatened, you never know. Next, Trump lawsuit, Wisconsin absentee ballot abuses affected 220,000 votes in Wisconsin. Oh, people, it's getting to the point where things don't even make sense anymore. So I'm going to start shortcutting my shortcuts a little bit and going through more evidence and just trying to go through my paragraphs and mention bullet points because of the amount of time that I have here. Next. Dominion voting system donated thousands of dollars to anti-Trump Republican PAC linked to our Secretary of State in Nevada. Bought and paid for or blackmailed? We don't know. Next, at a meeting I was invited to by the Democrat Party, no phones or recording devices were allowed. A presentation was given including detailed plans to embed 35,000 votes in a spread configured distribution to each Democrat candidate vote totals in Arizona. Now, folks, these are most likely not just witnesses and whistleblowers, but signed affidavits under perjury of law. None of this stuff is being made up. Everything I try to find is authentic and verified. Next, 1,062 registered voters who live at one of 56 UPS stores in Georgia. You can't make this stuff up. With all the weeks of election and voter fraud evidence that we've discussed here on this show, I'm almost thinking that I don't think I can literally come up with a scenario that hasn't been mentioned yet regarding the election fraud. Next, computer experts estimate that over 300,000 ineligible voters, including felons and illegal aliens, voted in Arizona in the 2020 election. expert says over 1,000 votes were not even verified by signature in Pima County. See, people, this isn't just for the presidency. This is for Congress. This is for Senate. This is for state representatives. We have fraud across the board. This is why all 50 states need an audit. Or at the very least, we need to have everybody prove citizenship, get a voter ID card. It's allocated to a number. There's not only a paper ballot when you come and re-vote in a month, so everybody has a month to get voter ID to prove who they are, and then there's a federal, regional, and local database that shows when people voted related to their voter ID number, and then there's a paper ballot stub for backup. If we did this, we would save us millions of dollars. But see, they don't want that because they want the ability to have fraud through plausible deniability. Next, bombshell video reveals evidence from Pennsylvania website showing over 23,000 Pennsylvania ballots were filled out and returned before they were ever mailed to voters. People, are we duct tape a banana to your American flag right now? We are a banana. All right, folks, Rich Scheben here sitting in for Vince. Less than half an hour left. I'm going to try and speed it up here because I got about 16 hours of data in less than half an hour to do. So, several observers testified that votes for President Trump were placed during the recount into piles for Democrat challenger Joe Biden. Imagine my shock. Next, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp illegally allowed election officials to open the outer envelopes of absentee ballots 3 weeks prior to Election Day, though the state law clearly prohibits opening ballots prior to Election Day. You know, this Governor Kemp of Georgia, the Governor Ducey of Arizona, the Governor of Pennsylvania, the Governor of Michigan, these people should be arrested. What the heck is going on here? My gosh, is the FBI and DOJ are they all on vacation in Hawaii? What the hell's going on here? Next, according to William Briggs, a statistician and former Cornell Medical School professor, an analysis found between 31,000 and change and 38,000 absentee ballots were returned by GOP voters that never tallied. Come on, folks. This is getting ridiculous. Next, vote tabulation data in various battleground states. Pardon me, my computer is something slowing it down. Vote tabulation data in various battleground states contain anomalies, in quotes, with massive swings toward Joe Biden that suggest missing ballots for President Trump, according to data expert Justin Hart. You think? Next, Judicial Watch announced that a September 2020 study revealed that 353 U.S. counties had 1.8 million more registered voters than eligible voting age citizens. So the registration rates of those counties exceeded 100% of eligible votes. See, that's not how math works, folks. And here's a quote from A.G. Barr, who may be the new Benedict Arnold. Quote, he said that the FBI's investigation of Trump was one of the greatest travesties in U.S. history and a bogus scandal, and has strongly suggested it was attempted by the Obama-Biden administration to affect the outcome of the election. Well, where's Durham? Where are the arrests? Where are the indictments? My God, would you please rip that yellow stripe off your spine, William Barr? Next, according to an affidavit in the Michigan lawsuit, one Michigan precinct township, you sitting down, people, had 782% turnout. This is getting stupid now. I mean, this is ridiculous. Adrian Fontes, Maricopa County recorder, in an October 26 podcast, admitted that Dominion employees permanently work in their election machine warehouse. No voter fraud there. Next, absentee votes in Wisconsin that all had the same initials, MLW. I saw them. I looked at it. More than 2,000 of these votes were found. So they know that there was at least 2,000 people who signed ballots MLW, or there was one individual who signed them all. So according to the source on the ground, more than 2,000 fake votes were found at Wisconsin recount in Dane County. People, this is evidence of chicken scratch because they are scrambling at the last minute to catch up to the landslide of Donald Trump. This is ridiculous. Sidney Powell says, we got pictures of check stubs of ballot harvest and receipts. I think I mentioned that earlier. Next, widespread effort of poll workers in Detroit and elsewhere to satisfy double count or discard ballots. Next, election workers illegally forged, added, or removed or otherwise altered information on ballots, the qualified voter, and other voting records, Powell's lawsuit filed on Wednesday. Next, an affidavit filed in Republican election challenge data scientist found a huge surge of incomplete voter registrations and those giving casinos and temporary RV parks as their mailing address in the third consecutive district that uncovers the southern third of the state and much of Clark County, including invalid birth dates and sex. People, one of the big reasons for all this is to cover up the crimes of the people involved. Remember I talked about Hunter Biden emails naming Kamala Harris and as others and as key contacts for the joint venture in China Energy Company. You cannot make this up. People, I mean, I'm flabbergasted. I'm at the point that I don't even know. I just can't believe that America is trying, the powers that be are trying to head fake us through all this. So in the last few minutes, I'm going to go mention as many as I can of the hypocrisies, the double standards, how they use COVID as the agenda. And we've talked about this many times. We've connected the dots to the chain reactions to create government centralized cryptocurrency to delegitimize work, to crash the economy, to get rid of cash, to create food shortages, domestic violence, depression, division, chaos, infighting, rigging voting legitimacy by using mail to make you submissive, depopulation, free speech, forced vaccinations, forced mask wearing, immunity passports, forced lockdowns, house arrests, 5G towers. I mean, all these things that we've talked about, divide and conquer strategies. We've talked about this in great detail, but I'm going to mention some of these points and articles now. Okay, next, mind-blowing John Hopkins study on COVID deaths. It was quickly deleted. For those of you who might not have read this, John Hopkins said that COVID has not increased the U.S. death rate. Has not. So basically, this article was taken down by the powers that be and by John Hopkins, showing U.S. death rates in 2020 were no different than in prior years because it doesn't hold water for the narrative that they're trying to pull right now. See, how many times did we on this show mention many of these type of articles. Many. How all respiratory disorders, heart attacks, motorcycle crashes, car crashes, all these mortalities going into the category. We've mentioned how even with comorbidities and age, the mortality rate with this is 99.7. Remember, even I think it was the CDC who said, well, only 6% of this big number really was true COVID deaths. We've mentioned all of these, so many times. There's a hospital executive says the second wave is a hoax where 90% of the COVID beds are empty. Another article, L.A. County supervisor was caught dining at a restaurant just hours after voting to ban outdoor dining over COVID-19 concerns. I believe this was just mentioned on the last break. This is getting so stupid and ridiculous. I can barely... I'm having a hard time literally pronouncing these words because things have gotten so ridiculous. Okay. And my computer, folks, is literally something or somebody is literally blocking me going into my computer right now. Interesting, huh? Next. This new wave of lockdowns, people will accept any solution because they're so desperate. See, that's how they do it. The PSYOP. They make you desperate to say, okay, I give up, we'll do everything I can. Next, Mexican president again refuses to acknowledge Biden as president-elect. Same thing with Vladimir Putin. Brazil's Bolsonaro says he won't take the coronavirus vaccine. I think we should, after all this is over, we should go to Brazil, we should go to Russia, we should go to Mexico and give these people commerce. Next, science and tech. Trump says big tech communities must be terminated for national security reasons. Absolutely. Big tech should not have all this immunity. And this is why I talked about demanding no protection, rights, or restitution under the rule of law for certain people who've been affected and attacked. Because we're literally rewriting the rule of law with precedents. And who is it benefiting? It's benefiting the wealthy of the wealthy, the people who have addictions to power, money, and control, the people who are pro-fascism. Next, California megachurches rebrand family-friendly strip clubs as stripper joints. So basically, you got to say you're a strip club to allow people to come in for essential business or to worship for church. Now, I know some of you are thinking I'm making some of this stuff up, and that's why I mention these disclaimers as often as I can. It's all published articles in the public domain that I do a lot of hard work to verify its credibility and resources, okay? Next, Republican David Valado defeats Democrat incumbent. The only reason I mention this is, have you noticed, people, that all these Republicans, because of their checking into the fraud, are winning these races because they can't hide? And this is in the Senate, this is in Congress, this is in the state reps, legislatures. Can you imagine if we actually did a audit of all 50 states? Just think about that. If we did an audit of all 50 states, I can guarantee you, just with the evidence that I've given, we could literally regain the House, the Senate, all state representatives, and take that and show that Donald Trump won in a landslide. Next, Governor Whitmer of Michigan gave almost $25 million of Michigan taxpayer money to Dominion. Now, I want you to think about that. For those of you who live in Michigan, they used your dollars to create voter and election fraud against you, and they say your vote no longer matters. Your citizenry no longer matters. Welcome to Michigan. I'll be right back. Okay, folks, appreciate you being here. This is the last segment. I'm just trying to give as much information as I can before the end of the show. We really appreciate you being here. So next article, former Trump campaign advisor Carter Page sues DOJ and FBI James Comey. Good luck, Carter Page. What group are you from? What's your sexual orientation? What's your shade of skin pigmentation? What gender do you identify as? I think that's probably going to be the only way you win today. I was told I could not sue because I didn't have group self-pity points. I didn't have enough victim group status. So, Carter Page, good luck. Let me know if you can get a real lawyer that's not paid off. Next article. November 27th, DOJ, Department of Defense versus CIA firefight in Frankfurt as covert war against the deep state rages across the globe. I don't know. I tried to verify this in other locations. I could not. But if this is true, we really are in a civil war, and it's freedom and liberty versus tyranny and evil is what war we are in. Next, landmark legal ruling finds that COVID PCR tests are up to 97% unreliable. People, this is a big reason why I spend a lot of time talking about the forced agenda that they're using COVID for. We need proof that masks work. We need double-blind studies. We, the people, should demand proof. Okay, it's basically management of fear to create this tyranny, because everybody knows the micron size of viruses do not fit or can fit in any one of these holes, especially these holes that are literally cloth and bandanas and T-shirts, and it's unbelievable what's really going on. Okay, next article. Tyrant New Mexico Governor Grisham using pandemic as excuse to starve citizens, ordering food stores closed. See, this is why it's about the agenda, and starvation is part of it. That's why they call it the reset. Next article, Michigan judge who tosses pro-Trump voter fraud suit caught releasing child molesters. How many times have the alternative media talked about pedophilia? Blackmailed, bribed, threatened. This is the MO. Next article. Trump excoriates DOJ and the FBI for being missing in action over all this election fraud data. That's why I'm saying the alternative media and the patriots are literally doing the work of what the DOJ and FBI should be doing. We are doing the citizen journalists, what the mainstream media and real journalism is supposed to be doing. But now everything's out in the open that shows these people are bought and paid for or blackmailed. Next article. We have a tremendous proof of election fraud by Democrats, but judges won't allow us to submit the election fraud. See, this is what's, again, bought and paid for and blackmailed. Next, judge then unblocks Georgia from wiping or resetting election machines. Well, I can guarantee you what happened there. That judge went back and forth 3 times. So in the middle, when he went back and forth at one time, it only takes 2 minutes to go into these machines and wipe them and swipe them and change them. Or like that one article I mentioned where last night in Fulton County, they literally stole the server. It's hard to believe this is America, folks. It really is. Next article. In Sanctuary, California, 3-time illegal alien charged with double murder and stabbing spree. What we need to do is make the lawyers and the judges liable. For those of you who are victims and lost family members to crime from illegal aliens, find out who the lawyers and the judges were who were proponents of bringing these people in, and take what you deserve from their bank accounts, from their homes. There's no other way to get justice anymore in America because everybody's bought and paid for or blackmailed. We have no rule of law. Zero. It's been replaced with precedent. Next, U.S. billionaires have gained $1 trillion since the pandemic started. And look how many people, 14 million people in this country, can't even make rent. Come on, people, can't you see we are allowing the elite to poison us against ourselves? Next, 195 million Chinese students are in school, but not our kids. Next, Communist China declares that the United States will not exist after the next COVID lockdown. Congratulations, folks. We have allowed political correctness and unchecked runaway power to take away our sovereignty and our country. Better wake up. We appreciate you being here. I will see you next time I'm on the air. You all have a great day and happy December.